I need to get to this really, really quickly so that I do not make the Vilas fans angry. How are you
Okay.
doing, sir, first of all?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
I know you got the wife at home, but do you get flooded by women all the time?
I get, oh, my mother and my grandmother loves you. Back in the day, I had women saying, I love you. Now I get, my mother loves you, my grandmother loves you.
Steve, I know that you're a former Chicago police officer and you're a Marine. How do we get to the Jerry Springer show?
Yeah. When I was a policeman, they needed security from time to time, and some of the guys I knew, they would provide security, so they needed an extra guy one day, and they asked me to work it, and I did it, and I made a good buck, and then when they did need guys, I was one of the guys that were calling, and when the show took the turn where they went, to younger people and having a
Yeah.
lot of confrontations, I just kind of organically grew into the show. And then whatever they asked me to do, I did it. And at some point, I was on the stage a lot, and they asked me to shave my head, and then I did it.
Oh,
And
oh, that was
I
their
became,
idea.
yeah. I mean, I didn't have like hair like yours, but I had Marine Corps style hair because
Okay.
after the service, I had kept it short. But I shaved my head, and then it just kind of took off, and then the show became just so crazy
Yeah.
popular. Um, it was just, and I say that was like the best time of my life, the most fun. Listen, I was saying I just did that documentary that just aired on ABC.
Yep.
People said, "Oh, we lied and we got on the show." Okay, so what? You lied. We wanted the show to be real because anything, even like our show, I would say our show is probably 99.9% real.
Oh, wow.
Um, because we want real stories. If they're fake, they're terrible. And
Yeah.
just back at Springer, like, when the stripper was dating the midget, as you could say
Yep.
back in those days, that probably wasn't real, right? You could use common sense. But most of the time, when you're sleeping with another dude's wife and they would start throwing punches on the show,
No
it just makes
brainer.
a lot. Right. So, yeah, we wanted the show to be real, that's for sure.
I wanted to tap on the loss of your dear friend. In a quote a while ago, you compared him to a father figure. How close were you to the late Jerry Springer?
Well, you got to remember when he was the biggest star in the world at one point, I traveled with him and we were on the road every week. When we were done taking
Wow.
the shows, we'd travel all over the country to every affiliate. And, that meant a lot of dinners together, a lot of,
Yeah.
at one point we probably spent more time with each other than we did our wives.
Yeah.
So over the years, we became very close. We had a lot of the same similar interests. And he, like I got, even though I never knew I was getting my own show, I got to see how Jerry was so professional and
Yeah.
how he treated people. And so it was a really good training ground for me, even though I didn't know I was getting on my own show. And then even after I got my own show, like I just had such a good time with Jerry. We had so much fun.
Yeah.
And even like politically, we were polar opposites, but we weren't like nowadays, like, oh, if you're this side, I can't
Yeah.
talk to you. We would joke that we were polar opposites, and
Wow.
we always had a great time. And you know, when he came to see me about a month before he passed, he didn't even tell me he was dying because I
Oh,
don't think he
wow.
wanted me. He didn't want me to like think about it or worry about him. But it was he knew it was the last time he was ever going to see me,
Oh
and
my
I,
gosh.
I remember he was very emotional when he was leaving, and we hugged, and he told me he loved me, which we never said that to each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then I knew I kind of felt like something was
Yeah.
up, and I said, "You okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then he passed away. But yeah, so we were. I said, other than my dad, no man had an invested interest in me like Jerry did.
Wow.
So he was just
Wow.
really good. And I love going back to Detroit and seeing all. I've made so many friends there over the years now, so it's always nice to go back to the D.
But you champion for the little person. Anybody. It's like you're our own personal bodyguard. And we love you for that.
When I was growing up, I hated the bully. There was a time when I was smaller and weaker, and I
Yeah.
got picked
Oh,
on. And it's a horrible feeling, right? I
yeah.
grew up in Chicago. I grew up in a rough neighborhood. But then, I got bigger. I started weightlifting, and I became a bigger, stronger guy. and I never picked on anybody in my life, and I always stuck up for somebody that couldn't, stand up for
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah.
And it just always gives me great satisfaction. I hate people that try to impose their will on people, and I won't tolerate it.
And if you weren't a cop, if you weren't a polarizing celebrity, what would you be? What would you be doing?
If I wasn't a cop, God, I don't know. Because listen, when I grew up, I wanted to be a baseball player.
Oh,
And
wow.
obviously, yeah, I mean, I played baseball my whole life. I'm a huge baseball fan, but I wasn't good enough. Not most people aren't. So, when I was growing up, none of the boys from my neighborhood went to school. Right, we were all, knuckleheads. So, my dad, who was kind of like my hero, he, I knew because when I was heading to near my high school, I had no plans. I wasn't going to college. And my dad said, "Hey, what are you going to do after high school?" And I said, "I don't know." He goes, "You're going to be a bum?" And that hit me, man. Like, he's like, look at all these
Wow.
guys around the neighborhood not doing anything. And he goes, "You should look into joining the military." And I did. And you know what? It's probably the best piece of advice I ever got because
Wow.
I thought I was a tough guy. And I went into the Marines and I realized I'm not tough.
Oh.
These guys are tough. And it straightened me out, and
Wow.
it gave me a great work ethic. It gave me punctuality, a
Yeah.
lot of life lessons. I tell my kids all the time, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're 15 minutes late.
Not bad.
And I tell my kids nowadays, and I'm sure you know this, right?
Yeah.
If the younger generation, all you have to do is show up and work hard.
Preach.
People are so soft now that if you just work a really hard,
Oh, Steve.
you're going to get ahead, man, because you're going to crush these younger people.
Thank you, Steve. Have a great day, honey.
All right, take care, you too.
Bye-bye.